Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Liosn University. My name is Mark Miller, and tonight we have a very important class in our master's program for campus clubs. This is one of our elective courses, and I welcome all of you to our session tonight and appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesday evening to be a part of us. And so I'm going to turn myself off so that you don't have to look at my ugly mug. But we do have some slides that we're going to be sharing with you tonight about our course. So first, a few quick introductory slides to share with you concerning the Liosn University program and this course in particular. Of course, this is part of the master's program for Liosn University, course number 235 on campus clubs. Hopefully most of you are aware, and I look at the names and I know that several of you have been through courses. Some of you already hold diplomas in our program, but this particular class fits in our master's program as one of the electives. As you know, there are 10 required courses. Then you can choose 5 elective courses to earn the master's degree together with attendance at the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. Together to do those 15 courses, then you can earn your master's degree in Lionism. The master's program, of course, is focused on district level leadership, and tonight's class very much fits in with the type of leaders that we need on the district level that are prepared to help and build effective Lions clubs, including those that are on campus clubs. If you're not familiar with, I would encourage you to check out lionsuniversity.org. There you can obviously click on the different degree programs that we are offering. At the present time, we have the bachelor and master's program up and running. The doctorate program is slowly beginning to run as we get our counseling process ready for the doctorate program. But I encourage you to check that out and be prepared to be a part of that particular program. Tonight's class is obviously about campus clubs. And as part of that, if you click on the appropriate number, I believe we were at 235. When you click on it, then tonight we are completing the course portion of it. And at the end, we'll remind you about taking the quiz. And so it'll be important to go back to the specific master's degree 235, click after this webinar to mark that you have completed the live webinar, and then you will be able to take the quiz at the conclusion, which will give you credit towards your master's degree. And so you can check out your progress when you're logged in. And that's important that you, of course, create an account and log in to track your progress. But it will be able to show you on the master's and bachelor's program how far along you are and which units you have completed partially or completely toward receiving your degree. We'll similarly have this up and running for the doctorate program fairly soon. Tonight's class is all about campus clubs, and PCC Allen is here this evening with us. He, of course, is a past council chair from Arizona and is had an extensive experience in extension, particularly in including campus clubs. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce and turn this over to Allen. You with us, Allen?
I'm here. Good evening. Hello, Michael, Paul, Sandy, Scott, Winster. 3 of you I've met and had the privilege of meeting before. Sandy and Scott, my pleasure to meet you online. Tonight we're going to talk about campus clubs, the where, the when, the who, and the how. Arizona 2.5 years ago took the leap to do extension through our campus clubs. We've been successful over the last 2 years. We now have 5 campus clubs, 3 of our major universities and 2 of the smaller specialty colleges. From our experience, we've learned some good things and some bad things, some things to do and some things not to do. And hopefully when we're through tonight, you'll have a better insight in going out into your respective districts and multiple districts to establish campus clubs. Mark, if you'll turn to my first slide there, and we're going to talk about the where. Mark, I'm not seeing any of the slides. Am I needing to click something?
Let me make sure. Hold on just a second. There we go. My bad, folks. How about now?
There we go. Okay, you can go on to the next one. This was my introduction here of what we were just talking about recently, the where and the when, which we'll deal with first, then the who and the how, and then what to do to get it actually going. If you'll go to the first major slide there, Mark, we're going to talk about the where. In Arizona, we have 3 major universities, quite a few specialty colleges, and a broad range of community colleges. We started our initial work in looking into going into all of them, community colleges as well as regular colleges and universities. Right off the bat, we found the biggest pitfall was if we tried to go into our 2-year community colleges. We learned very quickly 2 things. One, most of the students were all commuters. Nothing kept them on campus. And number 2, the makeup of the student body changed too quickly. We then started in my district, 21C, at 2 of our universities and 1 specialty college. We found that either one of them will work. The secret was going into a 4-year residential campus. We needed something to tie the students together. That was being part of a residential campus rather than coming in, taking your classes, and leaving. The other thing was by going into the 4-year schools, whether it was a college or a university, you had a better chance of success, because the one thing you must remember with a campus club is your membership is continually going to change. If you catch a student as a freshman, you'll lose them possibly after 4 years, maybe 5, but very rarely anything longer than that. So you have a constant change in the makeup of your membership. One of the pitfalls we had with our first campus club at Arizona State University was we had too many juniors and seniors that we had attracted as a part of the chartering group, and not enough freshmen and sophomores. So last year we took a major hit when half the club graduated and they hadn't replaced themselves. So my first suggestion is to go out and research the schools within your communities. Look at 4-year institutions versus 2-year, and preferably a residential campus versus commuters. So now what do? We're so used to, in the world of Liosn, just simply going out into the community and recruiting members, whether it's from friends, neighbors, business associates. When we're doing a campus club, we have a very select group, could be very large. Arizona State University is 70,000 students on campus, to our smaller Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which is only 2,000. We're also dealing with a specific time frame. You don't go out and recruit members in June, July, and August, hoping that you're going to catch them when they start school. You wait until school begins. So first you need to go to your school. In many cases, you need to find out their requirements of having a faculty or staff representative in and part of your organization that becomes the conduit between you and the university. So the first thing you need to do is go to administration to get permission to bring in a new club to their institution. Then it's a matter of looking into their schedule. Some of the schools will start in mid-August. Some will not start until early September. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical begins classes in the middle of August with all of their freshman orientation. Arizona State University, nobody comes on campus till after Labor Day. So you need to define your time frame on when you're going to go on campus. Most schools are 2 semesters, so you'll have a recruiting possibility in the August-September mode, and again at the start of the second semester in January or February after the holiday session. So go to your school and get their entire schedule so you know where you need to plan. Once you've established that, now we need to work on putting a team together. This was probably where we had some of the more interesting aspects of putting ours together. We had a lot of discussion on age. Was that going to be an issue to the recruiting group? And we learned after we took the benefit of getting an LCI trainer, and I probably should have started my slide with use the LCI trainers. There are several that will come out. The one that we recruited was Paul Baker. And now Lions Clubs International, if you have 2 or more possible locations for a campus club, they will allow Paul or one of their other members of their team to come out and put on a training seminar for you. What that will entail is you will provide the place and the time, pick up Paul or the other representative from LCI, and coordinate his or her activities locally. LCI will pay all of their expenses to fly them out to your location, their housing and so forth. You are only responsible for the facility and bringing in the students to make up the team. What we established was a time period of 1 week prior to the start of our recruiting process at the 3 universities we were going into. Fortunately for us, they all were within a 1 week time frame of when their freshman students were coming on campus. When we went out to pick our team, we were advised to make sure we had people who were tech savvy, who understood social media, who could handle a computer, a laptop, an iPad, and especially people who were persistent in what our purpose was. The least of our concern was age. Age made no difference. We did not feel we had to have 20-year-olds in order to recruit on campus, and we still had members of our team who were in their 60s and their 70s. But they were comfortable in using a smartphone. They were comfortable in communicating with social media. They were comfortable in using a computer. And most importantly, they were also persistent. The one main thing that you need to understand in going into a campus club is the group of students or the potential members. These are not your average Lion members who are established in their work, their families, maybe retired, looking for things to do. These are people who have a limited time span, but have a desire to do community service. The least they want to do is go to meetings. So we went in and put our group together. Paul came and trained us on how to approach them. And then we started setting up on where we go to recruit. You will find at most of the schools, they have some kind of club fair, new student orientation, freshman orientation. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical has 1 day for freshman orientation. The next day is for any additional upperclassmen who are new to the school. Arizona State University and Northern Arizona University have club fairs that are predominantly held during freshman orientation week, but are also open to all new students on campus. So research that out, find out what is available, because that's where you're going to go looking for your members. You're not going to be pounding the pavement, knocking on doors in the dorm or apartments. You're not going to be going from class to class. You're going to be going to the areas within the campus where the new students are communicating and congregating and looking for things to do to get involved on campus in something other than their academics. The most important thing they reminded us to do was leave our coat and ties at home, leave our club vests with all our trading pins at home, and dress like the students. For those of you that know me, that was probably the neatest thing for me, because we're in July and August and September in Arizona, and I could go in shorts. And we simply would wear shorts or jeans and a club shirt that recognized that we were part of the Lions organization. But we did not go, as I say, with our pins on our vests. We did not get real formal with a coat and tie. We wanted to blend in and be one of the students. We set up our club fair. We bring in a table. Usually the school will provide that for you. If you've done membership recruitment, you know that LCI provides a remarkable amount of materials, from brochures to the applications to banners to posters. We created a campus club banner, one of these newfangled banners that pulls up from it's rolled up in a metal base on the floor. You extend a pole, pull the banner up, and it becomes a 8 to 10 foot tall banner on campus clubs. We created one for ourselves and made it generic to campus clubs and not the particular university. We then went in and got all set up. And just like with any of your active membership recruitment, you have to be proactive. To simply man a table and stand there and wait for the students to come to you, you're not going to be successful. First of all, you got to remember you're dealing and competing with many, many different organizations, many of them all dealing with various forms of community service. So it's finding those students that fit our niche. So instead of standing behind the table, we were out in front of the table. We brought bowls of candy, giveaways, funny things to attract their attention. We did bring in 2 cases, members' children. In this case, they were grandchildren who were joining the club, so that we had all ages, from students all the way up to grandpas like myself. It now became time to go into the fair. We took our banners. If you want to move on, Mark, to the next one. We took our banners. We took all of the brochures. We learned the hard way. The first one we did, we just had yellow legal pads and pens and paper. We learned very quickly that night that half the names, we couldn't read their handwriting, couldn't distinguish their numbers and letters in their email addresses. So we very quickly learned the second day to bring a laptop and an iPad with a keyboard so that we could have them fill out right away what information we wanted. We needed their name, We needed a cell phone number if they were willing to give it to us. And most importantly, we needed an email address. The one thing you will find with campus clubs is they communicate 90% of the time through social media and some form of electronic communication. We learned, and we'll discuss it a little bit further on, some of the resources that we used for holding our meetings. So we brought our tools, and then we started to sell. And for us, we're selling service. I know, Paul, how active you are in your community. I know Michael is extremely active in his community. So you know how to sell service. We all know how to sell Lionism. That's why we're here. It's why we're interested in membership growth. What I'm hoping to share with you is how we tackle a different branch of that community in dealing with the young people. Paul, you've got to step up because you communicate with social media all the time. It was my privilege to get to meet you at Ellie, and I know we've had several conversations there and since about changing how we communicate, changing how we meet to move into the 21st century. You, Michael, are in that age range where you're comfortable with social media. I'm still learning how to use it, but I'm fortunate I have grandchildren that can teach me. So we started selling. I'll share a little bit with the three different experiences. Arizona State University, a huge metropolitan university. We were competing with over 300 different organizations. They did group us by the area of service so that we then were narrowed down where we were competing with 50 groups that dealt with various forms of service, from animal shelters to food banks to other forms of shelters, homeless shelters, women's shelters, children's shelters, along with service. So we felt we needed to emphasize what Lions do best. We wanted to show them the global aspect of our association. And ironically, the first group at ASU when we chartered, 12 of the 24 we chartered with were from India that were at the university working on their final years of their bachelor's, most of them working on master's. They knew about our organization, but at home it was not as easy an opportunity for them to join a local Lions Club as it was to join a campus club in the United States. I've stayed in touch with several of them when they returned back home, and the fact that they were returning as a Lion was beneficial for them being accepted into a local Lions Club in their community. One of the leaders this past year at the ASU Campus Club is a Leo Lion from Japan who's been affiliated for 7 years with Lionism in Japan in the Leo program. Now he's here working on his master's and his doctoral degree, will be here for 2 more years, has spent 1, but now he's a full Lion. So we capitalized on that as a selling point for many of our foreign students. The other selling point we used was the fact that this organization is so global in its endeavors that when they finish school, they can go back to their community and transfer to a local Lions Club. In many cases, we found it interesting. They knew who we were. They just didn't know what we were and what we did, but they knew their community had a campus club. So you need to be savvy in evaluating your student population, what they're involved with, what they're looking for as you sell. Go on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about how they meet. Ironically, we went into Arizona State University on a Monday, traveled to Prescott, Arizona on Tuesday, to Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff on Wednesday. We're back in Phoenix on Thursday, continually staying in contact with all of the people we had met. The one thing that amazed us and was hard for the average Lion to accept was how fast this whole process moved. When we go out into our local community, I mean, I've heard stories. We just chartered one club in one of our districts, and it's only taken them 3 years to put it all together. But in most cases, a community club is a 2, a 3, could be a 4-month process from the time you start making initial contact until the time you are successful and get your charter going. The thing that you'll need to be prepared for, and we weren't initially prepared on how fast we moved. In each university, we had created our sign-up sheet, our email list, and when our fair ended, we then sat down with those lists and started creating mass emails and mass texting profiles for group texting, and immediately that night sent out notifications to all of the students that we had met. In the case of Arizona State University, we were looking at a list of 200 names. At Emory-Riddle, being a small 4-year specialty college, our list was 80 names. It also, though, represented almost 80% of the incoming freshman class because it was so small. Emory-Riddle is a school of 2,000 plus students to ASU's 70,000 plus, and Northern Arizona University was in the middle at approximately 20-some thousand. In each instance, we created our list and immediately started meeting online with them. We set up times so that for Arizona State, where we had been on Monday, that we would be back on Thursday. We simply picked a spot at the Union and sent out mass emails and texting, inviting them to more formal informational meetings. It's recommended by LCI that you do all of that within a 24-hour period, no more than a week. You need to grab their attention, get them involved before they join another club or another organization or get started with their classes. So it's a matter of attacking as quickly as possible. You then also have to bring up the good old problem of cost. It's not going to be free, but it is also going to be a lot more reasonable than it is for a regular club. Lions Clubs International does not charge an application fee like they do for a new member. You simply pay the first year's membership up front. The best part is it's a 50% discount. So where normally a new member's going to be charged $21.50 twice a year to be a regular member of a regular Lions Club, you join a campus club and you pay initially 1 year. We then so we collected a $25 fee from our new members. In our multiple and sub-districts, the only time new members are billed is at the beginning of July and the beginning of January. So you need to research what your districts do. So in our case, we knew we only had to collect enough money to cover what International was going to bill us. We found out that we chartered in September, and that dues went for 1 year. And in January, they prorated us for the balance of the next calendar year, so we would get on a regular cycle. But it is not as major a financial obligation for a campus club member as it is for a community member. The other thing we learned was by going out and having extensive charter night celebrations, they were able to raise administrative monies because they were doing it within the Lions community and not within the public. Ironically, our smallest campus club raised the most, the largest raised the least. But it also, in all three cases, they raised enough money to cover their administrative costs for the first full year once they started getting billed by our districts and our multiple districts. Within a period of 1 week, we had also appointed temporary officers. From these informational meetings, we were able to glean who some of the leaders were. In one case, at Northern Arizona, we had the benefit of one of the incoming freshmen had been raised in the Lions family, and her father was a vice district governor in California. So we knew she was a leader as far as our organization was concerned. In the other two, we simply gleaned from conversations who were the leaders. Where could we start with our temporary officers? Many times with a community club, we're always concerned with, well, we need a president, we need 2 or 3 vice presidents, and we need a secretary, and we need a treasurer. We need directors, we need a lion tamer, we need a tail twister. In a campus club, we do not need all of those officers and in fact, they don't recommend all of those officers. All of our campus clubs have a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, a membership chairman, and a service chairman. We filled the temporary ones immediately. We found a president who was willing to step up and be a guide. We found a secretary who was willing to handle the administrative side. And we found a treasurer who was willing to step up and coordinate the collection of all of the fees. The secretary took care of all of the applications, and the first president took care of the organizational side. In our period of 1 week, we got all 3 clubs started. We then held continually every week more informational meetings as we gathered our membership to reach our goal. The one thing we talked about earlier was meetings. Most of our clubs meet physically once. Northern Arizona meets the most. They meet every 2 months. Embry-Riddle meets every 2 months. And Arizona State meets every quarter. And because they're dark for the summer, they basically have 3 physical meetings once we completed their charter. Everything else is done through Facebook, Google Docs, and other means of electronic communication. All 3 of them have established Facebook closed accounts for their officers, their guiding lion, and their sponsor. All of them have, by invitation only, Facebook accounts for all of their members, and then they all have a general, generic Facebook page. When they need to do something, they go into the officer's Facebook page and make their post. From being a 36-year lion who's used to the old-fashioned way of communications, I have been turned around to the importance of being tech savvy and using electronic communication. Because you get instant answers. Something that my own club would take 2 or 3 weeks to decide, a couple of meetings, the club members make their decision within an hour. So they communicate solely that way. They start sending out surveys on what kind of projects they want to do. Each of them, of course, like a normal community club, needed a sponsoring Lions Club. Hopefully that sponsoring Lions Club is the one that is providing the rest of your team to work with the students throughout the year. We were happy in that over a 5-week period, show my last slide because I'm so proud of it. In a 5-week period, we chartered 3 clubs with 84 new members. For 2 of our districts, that amounted to all of their growth last year because of their campus clubs. Now, have they grown? No. Are they still active and around? Absolutely. Have we learned new things? Absolutely. The things we've learned the hard way, I mentioned it a little earlier. You need to be sure you go out there and recruit members that are freshmen, that are sophomores, that are juniors, and go ahead and even look for some of the seniors. They might give you that leadership the first year, but if they graduate and don't go on to a master's, you're going to lose them after 1 year. The hardest thing was learning to have to replace our membership all the time because of graduation and attrition. The easiest part was doing community service, to find activities for them to get involved in was the easy part. Two of the three have both held fundraisers. The one just barely broke even, didn't lose any money. The second one made money, and we just completed their year with a major fundraiser that's going to two of our local charities, one Leader Dog and one Our Vision Center's new mobile clinic. The best piece of advice I give you, something I know Paul and I have talked about, Michael and I have talked about, is think outside the box. Don't go into it with the mentality of what you would do in a community club. If you do, it won't work. If you're willing to try anything new, it's going to be exciting. Embry-Riddle went to town so hard to put their charter night together. They had over 100 people in attendance. They raised, with raffles and auctions, over $1,700 into their administrative account. So they don't collect any dues at all yet and still have a substantial amount. The Arizona State University Charter Night was a bingo night, only open to Lions clubs in our communities. They raised enough to support themselves for 2 years. So think outside the box. I hope I've given you some ideas, some of the do's and the don'ts. Don't be afraid to try something new. I believe on the documentation, I believe is on your little exam. I also gave you my email. I have no problems if any of you wish to communicate with me. I would prefer to communicate on Facebook, because I know what to do now, or instant message. But hopefully you'll go out into your community and work on campus clubs. It's the future of our organization. I think we all know that in so many cases, our standard community club are slowly dying. They're dying because our members are dying. They're dying because we're stuck in a rut. Campus club members don't know what failure is because this is totally new to them. Arizona State University's fundraiser and NAU's fundraiser was a dining in the dark. They had no clue what to do, but they put it all together, and in both cases, were very successful. It's new, it's exciting, it's different. You need to do it with an open mind, and you'll be successful. I'm open to questions if you have any. Otherwise, Mark, I don't know when they take their exam.
I'll cover that in just a second, Alan. If anybody has any questions, you can obviously type it into the question box or raise your hand and I'll unmute you and we can have a conversation about it. I'm going to shrink that for a second so I can scroll through. Let's see. Let's see. Paul, your hand is up. Paul, did you have a question or a comment?
With Iowa, with the dues situation, we found that that's kind of a turnoff to campus club members. So one thing that the districts and multiple districts are doing is voting at their conventions to waive student dues for the district and multiple district. That way they only have to pay international dues.
Fantastic. And what we did, Paul, was we went in and changed our constitutions in all three districts to make our dues 50%, so that we were in essence matching what LCI was doing. I don't know, for our multiple district dues in Arizona is $14, $7 twice a year, so it's $27 for campus members for a year, and their district dues is $2.50. So it becomes approximately a $30 investment. What we chose to do the first year to get them all started was to actively work with them on their charter celebrations so that they raised enough money to cover at least the first year, if not the second year as well.
Good. Okay, Scott, you got your hand up. Scott, did you want to make a comment or question?
Yes. Here in Oregon, we would tend to get
I'm sorry, Scott, I can't hear you.
in Oregon, we were trying to get a campus club at a private four-year university. And some of them were wondering, should we start it as a branch club or as regular club? And what's your thought on that?
Well, my thoughts on that, I guess I'm going to be old-fashioned enough where I don't find a branch club is, whether it's a community branch club or a campus branch club, are real beneficial, because you don't have the drive that you do to go out. If you bring in, have you had LCI out to your district or multiple district to do a seminar on how to recruit?
Yes.
Okay. You will know that it's a 1, 2, 3, you go, and you get it all done. As I said, Emory was the smallest of our schools with only 2,000. We had no trouble getting, they chartered with the largest group of 40. So I just think it's going out there and being proactive and being positive that you're going to make it happen. Now, you might find, we tried it in one of our community colleges, and we learned very, very quickly that it wouldn't work. So instead of wasting time going back week after week in our smaller community college, we stuck to the larger four-year colleges.
Okay, Dawn's got a question that she's typed in about how much lead time do you need to give LCI to get a trainer out?
I believe you can, the first thing, when we did it 2 years ago, they would come out as long as you had a possible location. Now that policy has changed, and you have to have 2 schools that you're going to be working with. And it's simply a matter of Paul Baker's schedule, or I believe there's one other campus club trainer. I would say somewhere between 30 and 60 days lead time. What I recommend is you go out and find, now, school is coming to an end. This would be a prime time over May and June and July to go into your schools and find out what their program is for next August, September, and the start of the new school year, and work on that. This is a perfect time to get started. You don't want to wait till July or August, and you don't want to wait till October or November after school is start. So go out there now, find your schools, find out what their requirements are, when they do their new student orientation, etc., and contact LCI right away and get it lined up for July or even August. In our case, Paul came out the week of our club fairs. So he did his seminar on a Saturday and a Sunday. He flew in on a Friday night. He did his seminars on Saturday and Sunday, and we hit the road Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with him in tow, doing all of our recruiting. It's a matter of doing a lot of homework first and then ready to run.
Okay. I think we've got one more. I think it's Winster. Is that correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Okay,
Hello,
Winster.
Mr. Winster. How are you?
Good, Alan. You?
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Just to comment about Campus Club. In community colleges, I work in a community college, so we have one campus club in a community college, and it's all year round work. Because you were explaining before, 2 years and they're gone. So you constantly need to be recruiting new people.
Absolutely.
But you have to let them know that they can keep transferring their membership to another school. For example, now during the summer, we're going to be working in a new club in a 4-year institution because one of our previous members that graduated want to start that school.
Yep.
So we're going to be working on that. So that's something that they need to also keep in mind. Also, here in New Jersey, it was passed constitutionally that campus club members under the age of 30, student members, do not pay any dues. They only pay international dues.
You're
And
wonderful.
And that goes to my last, it's a little complaint. The last question on the quiz is wrong. Campus club members can be part-time students and they can be over 30 because you can have staff and faculty be members of campus club. So I got that one.
I don't believe they get the break in dues.
No, in dues, but they can still be members of the club.
Oh, yes.
So Mark, you need to fix that for me. I don't like that 90.
Well, we'll see what we can do on your appeal. But Winster, I appreciate those comments. Absolutely.
No problem.
Yes.
Winster, is your community college a 3-year school?
No, it's 2-year school. Yes, 2-year school.
2-year school.
Yeah.
We had a terrible time even getting into our 2-year community colleges. We went to the first club fair, and I thought it was going to be a piece of cake because my granddaughter was going there. And we walk into the club fair, and there were tables up and down the center of the union, and each organization was allowed to put an 8.5 by 11 pad of paper.
Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, I work here, and it took me almost 2 years to get one going.
So we figured with having enough 4-year schools, we worked there. And now we're at the University of Arizona, all 3 of the state schools, Emory-Riddle, which is the aeronautical university, and Western Reserve, which is a small private 4-year college in the medical profession on the west side of Phoenix. And all of them have been successful. Ups and downs, like with any club. The membership, it's like, I think, with any community club.
Yep.
We so tempted. We get that 20th member and we want to send in the charter papers. And I found in my years, if you charter with 30, you'll survive. When you charter with 20, they're not going to make it.
Yep.
Well, great. I hate to cut y'all off, but great discussion. But obviously, we're almost out of time, and there's just a few things. Alan, first of all, let me thank you so much for this presentation. And Winston, I'm sorry for cutting you out, but we do have a time to watch. I appreciate very much Alan's leadership in putting this session together. I learned a lot about campus clubs, even though I've worked with a couple. And so I very much appreciate, Alan, your hard work in getting this. And and I appreciate everybody else also participating and questions, great comments. Let me cover a quick little housekeeping. Remember, this is part of the Lions University program. Winster mentioned about obviously taking the quiz. I'll talk about that in a moment. But obviously you can use this towards your master's degree as one of your 5 electives. Of course, you can take all the courses. I know Michael's taking every course that comes up. That's great. And obviously you will have the opportunity to get that recognition this fall at the Omaha, Nebraska Forum, the USA Canada Lions Leadership Forum, September 15th through the 17th. Take the quiz. Winster's obviously already taken the quiz and has filed an official complaint, and I'm just kidding on that, about the last question, because obviously these quizzes are designed to make you think, and that's great that you are thinking through some of these questions and pointing out where maybe we sometimes that work with the Lions University may need to look a little broader. But the bottom of your screen shows that link to specifically take the quiz for this class, the Master's Program 235, so that you get credit for that. In order to see that, obviously, you must be logged into Lions University's website, which means you must have a username and password. And so I appreciate very much you participating tonight. We've got 15 seconds and I have to plug one thing. Campus Club that I work with, uses a program, a texting program that does group texting. It's called Group Text is the program that you can get for your iPhone or iPad. And they all communicate by text. And that's the way they have their meetings and everything else through that group texting program. So there are great ways to get campus clubs and a totally different culture that will revolutionize our Lions. And Alan, I think you'll agree with me. The more you're around that group, the younger you feel.
You got that right.
Great. Well, thank y'all so much for participating tonight, and keep up with your Lions University participation. And with that, we are going to sign off and have a good evening.
Good night.